Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Rob.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
We'll be starting shortly. It's almost 9 o'clock here in Arizona, and I drove 2.5 hours. So I just want to make sure I get set up online here. I'll be with you in a couple of moments, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Can everybody hear me?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good
Abe, you're back.
morning.
Morning.
Abe, you're
Good
back.
morning.
Yes, I'm back. I just came in.
How
Just
was
walked
it?
in. It was great. But I got to talk to you later. Can we have a little time right after the conference call, right after this?
Sure. Yep.
Oh, thank you, sir.
You're welcome. So we got 2 minutes to go. Who on this call before we get started? Who's a statistical agent who just eats up the statistics when working with clients? Alex, you don't surprise me. Beth, you're a statistic person.
I've got an MBA in finance, so believe it or not, I use it a lot.
Okay, fantastic. So we got a small group so far. Everybody's going to be right on time today, huh?
I just landed. I just came in my house.
And you made it.
I wouldn't miss you for the world today.
All right. So let's see. Is Brian, are you on yet? We have Brian from Cornerstone on. No, not yet. And Beth, I'm gonna wait till we get our full audience before we talk. All right.
Okay. Sure.
So Brian here. I also think when I put statistics out there, I think we scare a lot of people because people, oh my God, math, real estate and math. That John there, how you doing?
Hey, Rob, how you doing? Good morning.
I'm doing great. All right. I'll do a call for Brian if he's on. If not, I'm going to get right into it. So, Brian, if you're on with the mortgage update, just chime in. If not, I'm going to get started. So today's session is inspired by mute everybody.
Hey, Rob, it's Gail. I just want to say,
I just muted you, Gail. You have to unmute yourself. I muted everybody for background noise. Good.
I said, I wanted to say thank you. What a wonderful party. We all had a great time. Thank you. It was amazing. Glad to be back.
Fantastic. Yeah, well, we have a lot of returnees, a lot of alumni coming home, and Gail, you definitely were missed by your peers, and we welcome you back with open arms.
Thank you. I certainly was. Thank you. And it's good to be back home after 34 or 35 years with you. So thank you. Starting back at my home place there.
Yeah, you have to stop saying the years, Gail. It makes me look old.
I'm old. Well, this year I'll be 40 years in real estate and like 30 with Remax. So a long time.
So welcome back.
Thank you.
So I want to get started with some of the content, and this is inspired by I recognize how skilled and talented we all are at understanding our niche markets and looking at the micro data, but I think sometimes we need to take a step back and look at the bigger picture. And these statistics here are designed to, or at least my conversation today is designed to give you an additional perspective when talking with both buyers and sellers. And it's in line with the core belief that I have that who you select matters in a very big way, because I think buyers and sellers now, with the information available to them, feel a false sense of empowerment. Hang on. They feel a false sense of empowerment, and I think that can be dangerous. Is anybody who's been in the business for 15 years or more feel like the consumers maybe think they know a lot more about it because information's available. Hold on. Does anybody who's been in business for 15 years or more see that, consumers feel like they know a lot more about our industry because the data is available, but they don't know what's really important? And I see Gail saying absolutely.
Yes.
And I'm very big about the transparency is good. I don't want to hide anything that keeps our industry on our toes. But the data, the information that's out there on the internet needs us to interpret, and not only interpret it, but to tell them how to use that data to be successful transacting in the business. I was watching some old clips from Mike Ferry and Jim Rohn, and Jim Rohn did something in the 70s, who's Tony Robbins' mentor, and he's like, in this speech, he's like, well, in this day and age, with all the distractions that we have, it's very difficult to focus on your business. And I'm thinking, there wasn't even a cell phone then, right? And he was talking about the distractions. We have so many distractions and so many ways that we can take our eye off the ball and not focus on, directing the consumer to discover the right strategy to be successful transacting. And my goal is to give you the information to help them make the right decisions for themselves, because that's how ultimately we get paid. So I have a lot of numbers, so you might have to take some Advil today.
Rob, if I could just say for a second, I've always equated that opinion that you were just talking about people knowing more today than they have in the past because the data is always out there. That was the same case when WebMD came out, and doctors were concerned that their patients were going to use WebMD to figure out everything that was wrong with them, and actually the opposite ended up happening because the people got the information, but then they didn't know really what to do with it. So they still had to call the doctor and still go see him before they decided that they had this strange disease that was going to kill them in 48 hours if they didn't do the right thing. And I think we fall into that same category. People have the information, but they don't know how to use it. And they have to turn to us for the understanding.
That's a perfect analogy. I totally agree with you.
Make that a trifecta. I couldn't agree more. And Robert and Colleen, coming from leadership, how many of our top most knowledgeable agents find the biggest struggle with being able to communicate the strategy to their client as opposed to not understanding the knowledge? So like, they may understand the knowledge, they may even be able to relay that to their client, but I think it takes a special skill to be able to interpret the information so that the client makes the right choice for themselves, right?
Right.
Because
Absolutely.
one of our agents says it's very important to stop the clock, right? When you want to buy or sell, the clock is not your friend, right? If you want to buy a house, you're deferring the amount of time that you could be in the house every day, week, month, year, decade that you're waiting to buy, right? And when you're selling, time also is not kind to the outcome, because your house needs to be show ready. And usually extended marketing times, or almost without exception, extended marketing times equal lower prices. Okay, because there's tremendous transparency in the market. And if a property's been on the market for 3 months, the entire public knows it, and they're going to factor that in when they make a decision in how to make an offer, if at all they're going to make an offer. So here's some data. Do last call. Brian, are you on?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, so I'm going to let you do the mortgage minute here for us before I get started, and maybe we'll have a few more people come on with us.
Yeah, apologize for my tardiness. I was running a little late today. So there wasn't, since there wasn't a mastermind call last Friday, I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving. What I am thankful for personally is the recent improvement in the bond market and the decline in mortgage rates. So you may or may not be paying attention to this, but one of the factors that gauges where mortgage rates are is the 10-year Treasury, as we know, which was pushing 4.5 a couple weeks ago. It's improved significantly. It's now around 4.14, which is the lowest since mid-October. Mortgage rates were over 7% a couple weeks ago. Now they're in the mid sixes. Obviously, this is a great opportunity to reach out to those fence sitters, those people that have been giving you those excuses. I'll wait till after the holidays, after the new year, get them in the hopper, you know. Obviously, there's always a lot of different financial news that's moving the markets. Now that the election is over and behind us, which moved markets as well, President-elect Trump's pick for key administrative roles has also been moving the markets. Specifically, his pick for Treasury Secretary. This is hedge fund magnate Scott Bessent. This is helping the bond market because he has an in-depth understanding of financial markets, the economy, in particular the bond market. So the bond market loves this, and this has been helping bring rates down. There's been a lot of Fed speak recently. There's been more and more Fed officials throwing their support for a rate cut on the next meeting, which is December, the last one of the year, which is December 18th. So the anticipation of what the Fed is going to do and whether the Fed is going to cut rates has been increasing. So Fed funds futures has been increasing, not only because of this stuff, but you know, the recent news as far as the October jobs report a month ago. You know, there's been a couple mastermind calls since then, but it was very dismal. There was only 12,000 jobs added. That was revised this morning by 24,000. This week we had the JOLTS report, which is the job openings and labor turnover survey. This came in higher. It showed that there are more job openings than what analysts expected. The November jobs report was released this morning. This showed a slightly higher expected amount of jobs added for the month of November. But within that report, there was a weak household survey. Within that, the unemployment rate ticked up to 4.2%. You know, this increases the Fed speculation. Fed funds futures are moving. There's going to be a rate cut, most likely 71% prior to this news to 87%.
So Brian, I'm gonna take the data you gave for probably half of us on this call here. You're giving us too much data, and just tell you.
Okay, sorry about that.
When you say the futures are going up, that means when prices go up, rates come down. And if you think about generally bad news in the economy is good news for mortgage rates, is the general consensus. The hot economy usually equates to higher rates. But there are so many things that I think are playing in, like, you know, there are some high profile individuals saying they're going to cut $2 trillion out of the budget, which would be good for mortgage rates because there's less competition to borrow money, which means that rates would be better. Okay. So, but overall, Brian is saying, give him a call, give our lending partners a call. Our clients should know that rates are dropping. And if the Fed cuts the rates in at their next meeting, that might already be factored in. It probably is. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's time to wait. It means take advantage of it now because we had a few head fakes along the way. So Brian, I appreciate it. You know, thanks for sharing that with us. And here comes some statistics which you're going to love absorbing. Before we go there, if anybody I have an announcement. We have a new addition to our RE/MAX Select Group family. We have our office in Celebration. I see a few people on. If you want to turn your camera on and wave, we have Beth and Chris, the broker and the former owners, waving there. And if you're on the team there, wave. Welcome to RE/MAX Marketplace, into the RE/MAX Select Group family. Welcome, guys and ladies.
Thanks. We're excited to be part of the team, and everything has been great so far. We're very excited. I think we've got a few people on too from the office. So we welcome any calls from you all. We welcome your referrals. If you want to visit the lovely celebration area, please stop by the office.
Thank you. We're extremely excited and look forward to leveraging that synergy and having everybody take advantage of this new relationship that we have. So welcome Remax Marketplace and the assets. Thank you, Beth. So here's the content for today. And some of this was even interesting for me. I took a look at a couple of just random markets where, I was proficient with the MLS, and I'm not proficient with a lot of the MLSs, but I looked up a marketplace near where I live in Union Township in Union. And I just wanted to share with you what the transaction volume is, what the months of inventory is, because I think, at least in New Jersey, we really suffer from a lack of inventory, and that's not the same everywhere. But I went back to 2012, and let's see this. In 2012, the town of Union had 377 sold homes, and it had 281 active on the market in October. Okay, which represented nearly a 9-month supply. And this year, there are 381 sold in the prior 12 months, almost exactly the same amount. And the inventory, instead of being 281, is 51 units active. So it went from 9 months to a 1.6 month supply. Last year was at about one month supply. In 2022, it was 1.25. 2021, it was a 1 month supply. 2020, it was almost 2 months. So I looked at some of this historical data, and it did kind of surprise me a little bit. I mean, virtually the same amount of units closed, but 1/5, 1/6, 51 versus almost 300 units on the market. That creates some confusion and frustration for agents and buyers, because back in 2020, 2012, 2015, 2018, you have a buyer, you can set up an appointment for Saturday and show them 7 houses. That's not happening as much anymore, right? I don't know, in Celebration or New Market, what's the inventory look like there when somebody's coming in? Do you have 1 or 2 houses to show them, or are you getting to be a little bit more?
Inventory is definitely increasing. We bought the brokerage in 2018. Correct me, Chris, but I believe 2018. If I look at just Celebration, using it as an example, there were usually around 40 to 50 houses on the market. It went down in 2020 and 2021. There were maybe 5 to 10 in single family homes. And now we're back up to those levels, those 2018 levels
Like 50?
of inventory. So inventory is still a little bit low, but certainly buyers have more negotiating room and more to choose from. Our market also in Central Florida is there's still a lot of new construction. So we do tend to sell probably 30 to 50% of our sales are in new construction.
Which some of our markets don't really have that much available, but that's and it was interesting when we had our luncheon, a couple of your team members there, we were talking about, there's a house that's been on the market for 182 days, and you have somebody interested in it. All of a sudden, there's 3 offers. Isn't
Yeah.
that funny how that happens?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
I mean, it's like, do we have bad luck, or is that like when I say that to agents, everybody is like, I know it, right? And you've experienced it both from when you have a listing, and then the other agent thinks like you're a shyster because you're like, you don't have three
Right.
offers. It's been on the market for 282 days.
No, there's a weird cosmic energy that goes out when someone is interested in a property. The cosmic energy flows to other buyers and then they pick up on it and they want it too.
Exactly, the fear of missing out.
Right,
So,
right.
but it's interesting, you know, when you take a look at it, because I think sometimes we're in the market so we're so deep in it that sometimes we need to take a step back. And I was also watching some old Mike Ferry content, and one of the things that he said in one of his Mike Ferry TVs, was very, very old school. He just stands in front of a podium and he says, you know, if you've been in the business a long time and you've been watching the markets, you know, how many times have you said to yourself, boy, you know, 3 years ago you could have bought that for 3.25, now it's 600, right?
Right.
That mindset can play against us. That mindset can play against us because sometimes we're like, oh my God, that house is not worth it. Like, whether we're saying it explicitly, whether we're putting it into the cosmic universe, whether people can smell that, we're like, wow, that house just nearly doubled in 4 years or 6 years. Sometimes that's a negative. We need to distance ourselves from, you know, drawing conclusions because we've been watching the market for a long time. Okay, because the market is very fluid. You know, it's like trying to pick the stock market. It's a fool's bet. And when's it going to top out? I just say let's use the statistics. Let's figure out a strategy to help our buyers and sellers, and of course landlords and tenants. But I'm not going to go into that at this point. But a strategy to help our buyers and sellers. And I think some of the linguistics or the language that I'd like to see us adopt is, you know, having a conversation like, you know, hey, Colleen, I just wanted to see if anybody took the time to share with you the different strategies or share with you what's going on in, you know, Parkland, right? Because it's a very specific market. And we have a lot of this data, this closed data, that you can't get that on Zillow. You're hard pressed to find that data. And when I'm looking for it out in the public, most of the time where you get it, it's from one of us doing a YouTube video or a blog posting the data. And hello, there's an opportunity for us once we understand the data is to share it with, you know, share it with our audience or our potential audience that here's what's happening in the market. And when people see us as the expert, you know, hopefully we're going to be one of the first people that they call. And when you teach or when you promote your content, like you prepare a video, right? You do a blog, you have a meeting with a client, you teach another agent in your office what's going on, you will improve your own knowledge and your own skills, and that's a tremendous gift. Like, you're going to become more knowledgeable. You know, Robert Carver, you do what, mostly Booton, right? Or Mountain Lakes? You're muted, sir.
I missed the question, Bob. Sorry.
I was saying, I was asking, I know you're Mr. Booton, but Robert Carver, you do Booton and Mountain Lakes?
I do Boonton Township and Mountain Lakes. I wouldn't dare go near, you know, what Glenn's doing in Boonton, you know. It's
Right.
not a
But I
fair
mean,
fight.
you know, both of you are qualify as experts, but I think when you look at the data to prepare for an appointment or a listing, you know, you become a better expert, right? It refreshes your skills. And dare I say, sometimes you might find that it might break a mindset that you had, like you're watching the hot sheet, you're watching the under contracts, but then when you prepare for an appointment, sometimes you might find anomalies, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the other thing I wanted to say was like, I follow a lot of real estate web pages, and I see a lot of agents talking about how they want to start getting into the luxury market or the higher priced market. Um, and I mean, what we're doing today is a must-have if you're thinking about trying to move to a higher price point. Because the higher you go, the more people want the data. They want the information. They tend to understand it when you can present it to them in a meaningful way. And that's been my experience, with the higher end market specifically. And I think now probably, and Glenn can talk to this too, in Boonton, it's a different market, it's a different price point. But the people, I'm sure, now are reacting to his ability to give them all the data.
Right, and Robert, when you have a client where you're preparing for that, it just enhances your skills. And sometimes, at least for me, it throws me a curveball because what I thought was happening, might be slightly different. And have you experienced that when you study it? Like you're like, oh, I know what's going on here, right? I got it. And then you look at the data and it's changed a little bit and your perspective is growing. And that gives you more confidence and content to share with your clients for a strategy perspective. Now I'm gonna take a second and go to Glenn, who was on a second ago. Glenn, do you ever, you're looking at it every day. You're probably eyeballs deep in it. Do you ever find that there's some surprises when you look at a particular property or buyer?
Always. Yeah, for sure.
Right. And you truly are an expert in that town. I mean, you're community advocate, you're a civil servant there. You really, live and breathe that community, yet you can still find some anomalies that surprise you, right?
Yeah, it never fails, especially when we cross the million mark.
So for those of you who have that false sense of confidence, maybe just understand that sometimes you need to, take a look at it from the ground up and see if your hypothesis in that particular pocket or that area is true. And this is the gift I'm trying to give you today, is the ability to be as techie and statistic driven as possible. And I think if you're not using, relevant recent statistics to have the conversation with your client, even if it doesn't change where it goes, I think, we owe it to them, if we're a full service brokerage, to provide that information, educate them to make the right choice. And giving them the data is one piece, but where you're located in Florida. Okay. Celebration is near Orlando. I'm just trying to read the notes, but you're giving them options by educating them, I think, is part of the value proposition that differentiates us from somebody putting it onto the internet. There's a lot of AI out there. There's more AI coming down the pike. AI might even be able to, in somewhere in the future, follow the processes that I'm sharing with you and aggregate them together quickly. That might even be available for consumers. But the real edge and the real value is our ability to interpret and give them the strategy to what to do with that information, what to do with that data, right? And to educate them on what role our industry, and that we in particular play in helping take the data and translating that into welcome to your new home, or, here's your home sold at the optimal price. If that makes any sense. And is our Florida offices outside of Celebration, are we seeing, mild inventory buildup on single families, or, tell me, what do you suspect that you have in your local market if you try to follow that? Anybody from our Florida team? Everybody's shy, Robert.
We're seeing a little bit of an increase.
So, and Ron, what would you define your primary market as?
Well, more condos are going on the market, less single family. Condo,
So like you personally, what's your primary market?
residential.
No, is it in Pompano? Is it in Coconut Creek? Is it entire Broward County? What's your market?
It's Sunrise, Sawgrass area.
And do you look at the details as in depth as I'm talking about here?
Oh,
And-
yeah.
And what's the inventory buildup over the past 12 months?
Over the past 12 months. There's probably been an increase, maybe, I would say somewhere around 42%.
And I'm not being critical. I'm just suggesting that if you sometimes take a step back and you maybe run the numbers and you can say, in the past 3 months, inventory has actually decreased, but from a year ago, we're up 40%. Like, I think that adds more value to it, right? Because inventory is building up, but the last 3 months it's decreased. If you're a buyer or a seller, that might have implications on the strategy that we use to be successful in conducting business, right? And when we do this, and maybe there's a process where if you're in, Sunrise and Sawgrass, if you're in Boonton and Mountain Lakes, or if you're in Celebration and I don't know, whatever ancillary market you have there, if you take a time, maybe the 15th of the month, your local MLS puts out stats, or the 21st of the month, and then you take some of those stats and you take a Saturday morning when you're not in rush, you grab a cup of coffee and you look at those and you see if they're consistent with what you believe is happening from watching the market day to day. Like, we're into it like this, right? And I want to take a step back with a cup of coffee, run some statistics, and then be able to say, hey, Ron, you know what? Inventory is starting to build up. However, in the past 3 months, we've seen it decline ever since the rates started to fall in, July or whatever, and that will give us, more context, more confidence, and more relevant information to help consumers execute the right strategy. And I think, especially at Remax, and, we have so many great agents that are so knowledgeable about the market. Are you raising your hand there, Beth, or you're on mute?
Oh, hello.
No, I was adjusting my light.
Oh, okay.
It was in my
I didn't know if you were.
Sorry.
So what I was saying is, having the information is just one piece to the puzzle. Okay, being able to take that information and come up with a strategy is another piece to the puzzle. But probably one of the biggest pieces to that puzzle is getting your buyers and sellers to buy into the strategy so that you can be successful for them.
Rob, we're seeing a big increase in properties in the Palm Beach area, in Palm Beach County. We have one subdivision in PGA. There's 100 homes and there's 40 listings. That's really telling.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
in 1 second, I'm going to come back to you, but here's one thing that I've been on the precipice of doing, Colleen, but I'm afraid that it's going to wind up being something that nobody values, right? Like, if we put together like some information and talking points about the market, would people actually use it? Number one. And number two is it as valuable if Elizabeth, Colleen, I, and Abe put together here's what's going on in the local market, or is there some benefit to us having a process of building that report and giving us deeper connections to it?
Well, I believe that, I went, oh my God, because I was shocked. And then I started looking into it and I saw, the similar situation in several areas. So I think, looking into it on your own is much, it would be nice. We can do this. We can set, I think we can if we send them the links to how to find these things and say, look at this, this is what happened here, intrigue their interest so that they will move forward to look at this. It's amazing, the information.
So,
Can I interject?
Rob?
I live in PGA National. I've been living in this community for 35 years. And I definitely see there's definitely something going on that a lot of either people are moving out, either upgrading or downsizing. But there is activity here, which is really something which all the new communities which are being built around us don't think they have what we have going.
okay, so all this knowledge that we have, right? It's like we have our own chat GBT of infinite information, but we need the strategy to figure out how do we get that information to be relevant to customers making the right decision. One thing that I want to put out in the universe, the cosmic universe, is if we could get in the habit of, whether it's just to our audience by, texting a physical report or doing a bomb or doing some sort of content promotion of, once we learn something, why are we going to be so selfish as to keep it to ourselves? Why don't we just say, hey, if you're looking to sell your place in PGA, here's what we're seeing. If you're a seller, here's what the most important. If you're a buyer, the good news is this, the challenge is that, right? So if we're going to take the time to be that expert, why don't we take the time to just share that? Because when we share it, we even reinforce our knowledge.
And Rob, I think so many times folks kind of overcomplicate how that information can be ascertained and put into a reasonable format that's worthy for video or other, and I have a GPT that's created that I drop in the auto report, which is our local, market report, an MLS of whatever that town it is. So whatever the activity from the MLS is. And it looks up on niche.com who's complaining about the neighborhood, and neighborhood.com. It's the GPT does all of that. Then it creates the script for me from it, all in one motion, right? I upload 2 files, put in the town name, and then I have a full script for my video created, and I didn't have to do anything, right? I'll call me a lazy realtor, but it resonates. And I think that we have these tools that sit there and will create the script for you. All you got to do is read it. And heck, it can even correct your eyes looking in the wrong direction, right? Like it's
some of the technology, and to your point, Glenn, I think sometimes people get overwhelmed by the depth of resources that you've uncovered, and you are very curious by nature, and you're very tech entrepreneurial. And I think that the way that you get there is you have to take it one step at a time. You really do. And I know, Lynn, you had something to say.
I have something to say, Rob. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, good. On a monthly basis, I put together a newsletter, and I send it for my particular neighborhood. And then this month I added it for Delray Beach, and I get the information from RPR. Everyone has access as a realtor to RPR, and they basically do market reports. It's self-guided. You can do it for single family homes, you can do townhouses and condos and townhouses. But last year, I just have to switch over to it. I went ahead and got a price change on one of my listings on this. And what we saw in Delray Beach, there was a decrease in the inventory went up to 4.88 months of inventory. We saw 560 single family homes for sale, with 168 newly listed in October, marking a 20% increase from September 2024 to October 2024. And then here was the scary part. We had a 6% decrease in prices. Okay, I brought that in front of my client. I got a price change. So I thought that was pretty powerful, and I'm going to continue to use that as part of my, my listing presentation, as part of my newsletter. So I wanted to share that. I've been trying to get your attention since you mentioned tools. So I thought I'd bring that up.
Yeah, and you know, it's not even, you know, some people, Lynn, who've not been in the business a long time, they don't even know what, you know, price adjustments are.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, inventory used to just fly off the shelves, but you're giving feedback and going back to some old fundamentals. That's what's old is new, what's new is old. It's coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to see if I can find this to share. It kind of falls right in line with what you're talking about. And I did with one of our team members, I did basically a repositioning report. I'm going to share this with you. And it probably took me maybe, let's see, maybe an hour to do this. I exported all the data, and this is, you know, this is because Maria Camacho cared about her client, right? And didn't just want to go, let's just beat it down with price adjustments. But we went in a very in-depth review of where do we need to be to sell this active listing that's committed to working with her, that we just wanted to give them the best possible advice. And all these resources that we're talking about here, you know, come into play. And I think we are repositioning this with a $200,000 price improvement. Hopefully we'll sell it very close or above asking price. But, you know, this is something that, you know, if you care about your clients and you want to give them service that 95% or 99% of the industry isn't giving, or maybe isn't even capable of giving, you know, I want to encourage you to find the button so that you can educate to help people make the right strategy moves to be successful in this market. Okay. The fact that there's very low inventory, you know, like we talked about in some of these areas, you know, there's 51 homes in one market where there was 280, but the sales are about the same. Okay, what does that say? You know, forget about that market that it's in. So 10 years ago, to have 400 sales in this community, there was 281 homes on the market. Today, to have that same 400 sales, there's only 51 homes on the market. What's that message to the client? Anybody want to, you know, create a story about that? Because I'll tell you what most of our industry says if nobody wants to step up.
Stabilizing.
So most of our industry is like, oh, Anna, there's not that much inventory. Like, we can't find what we want, right? But here's my story to you, and here's what paradigm I want to break. There's still 400 homes being sold. It's just you don't have the successful strategy to be one of those. There's no less homes being sold. We feel like there's less because on Saturday we can't go and show somebody 7 homes. Okay, the buying strategy is different, but there's still 400 homes transacting in that particular market. So we need to have a better strategy. We need to adjust the mindset, right?
Well,
Go ahead.
it makes them research a little bit more. So as compared to COVID or prior, people will watch like at 7 homes, right, in one day. Now they're narrowing down what they really want to see versus wasting a realtor time and their time looking at 7 homes. They might narrow it down to 3 because they're going to do more research. Because you have certain clients that do their research as well with the information you give them, and you have the ones that don't.
So my conversation, Anna, to you, and it's not a criticism or I would say, you know, Anna, you know, I just want to go through what the marketplace is doing. And in this particular area, you know, a lot of agents and a lot of buyers feel frustration because they say there's a lack of inventory. And that might really strike a nerve with people, right? Yeah, we can't find the right home. But if you were to educate them and say, look, you know, historically, we're seeing just about the same number of sales transacting in this marketplace as normally is. However, the strategy needs to be different. And they would say, well, what do you mean? Well, 10 years ago, I can go show you 7 houses. But to be honest with you, 5 of those 7, as soon as we pull up, I know that they don't they don't resonate with you. So is it okay if through technology, we eliminate the properties that are definite no's? And you have a conversation explicitly explaining how we're going to be successful. Because if you don't believe you're going to be successful and you say, oh, the inventory, we got to wait, blah, 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 I'm not going to work with you. I might even just say I'm going to renew my lease. Like, we need to be positive, right? We need to be that beacon of hope and that beacon of confidence that people are going to get what they want. Okay. And in the case where we were repositioning a house, you know, the market had changed. The market had gotten away by probably $300,000 on a $2+ million home. It does us no good to say, oh, it's okay, let's wait and see if the perfect buyer comes along. You know, we need to be honest and say we need to take some decisive action so that we can move your property at the value where it is today. You know, for sellers and buyers, you know, if there's, you know, 40, let's just say that there's 33 transactions that are happening in that particular hypothetical market, and there's 50 homes on the market or 40 homes on the market, you know, we need to contextualize it and say, look, there's probably 200 buyers, maybe 250 buyers chasing, you know, 30 transactions, 30 homes. So if we're committed to buying, like on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you on, you know, buying a home in whatever market it is, right? And if somebody says there are 4, then you might want to say, hey, you know, I'm working with the wrong client, right? And if somebody says there are 10 or 11, you say, great, you found the right person. And we're going to talk about when that house comes on the market, how are we going to negotiate for that? You know, and I know probably a month ago, you know, on our Friday Mastermind, I talked with Mark Feingold, who called me up and said, you know, here's a house on the market for $699. My clients don't want to go a penny over $725. And, you know, can you help me, you know, position the offer for them? So we did a big analysis. They went up to 730. I'm like, Mark, I would tell them if they really want it, they need to be at 751. And I'm not saying this to brag, but Mark Feingold will tell you that he got a call with his 730 offer and they said, our best offer is 750. Do you want to beat it? And it sold for 751. That's a true story. And for me, if you were to if you look in the roster, you call MARC Feingold. I sat there and I told Mark, this house is going to sell for 750, 751. I had high certainty. I don't even know where the house was. I just did it all by statistical data. And my confidence was 11. And, you know, I'm very often correct because the data speaks to me. Okay, the data tells me a story. And, you know, Mark did wind up being the successful buyer, and he was totally amazed at how it fell right where, you know, I knew it would. Because I know where the market is. I know how many days on the market. I know the list to sale price. I'm more of a list to sales price days on the market than comparing lot size, bedrooms, bathrooms, you know, updated kitchens, because those things do matter. But if there's that hot house on the market, right, and we can look at, you know, 4 bedrooms, 3 baths in this particular price range, and we look at sale to ask price, that's probably equally as relevant, if not more, than whether or not the kitchens and bathrooms were redone compared to the one next to it. Okay, and maybe it's a balance of the two. But you know, any team leaders, you know, ever sit down with your team members when they're struggling, and for you, you see it clear as day? Anybody? Sounds like Beth. Have you helped your team, or are you? Maybe. So
I think whenever you're struggling with a listing, to me, I mean, I have listings I struggle with too. I always, if I can sit down with a few agents and we go through it, I always get a good idea of what to do. And I don't think, you know, I'm a big believer in using your team and using your resources.
and Anna, we found a way to export the MLS, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, we have.
how long have you been doing? I'm going to put you on. How long have you been selling?
Has it been 5 years?
5 years,
5
and
years, yeah.
you're extremely competent with what we're looking at, but exporting the
But
entire
but knowing,
MLS data was
yeah, it was knowing what to do with the data that I got from, but how to analyze it and how to prep it for a client. That's something that I've utilized right away. Now it's good to utilize it for a seller. I don't see where it goes in with a buyer, but that was definitely an eye opener. Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you that it's probably equally, if not more relevant for a buyer, because you reverse engineer the process. And you
Okay.
say, if you're a buyer, here's how the properties are transacting. If you want to be successful without overpaying, we need to understand what the trends are. And, if you're in a tight market, right, you might have to pay 3 to 5% over ask price, but not 10%.
Correct. So then you can see the percentage of, how can I say, reduction,
Right.
right?
So you can say, look, if we see a hot property and we know that this is going to sell, because a lot of times you'll go and see a new property on the market, like, yeah, I know inventory is building up, but this one is not going to sit, right? We've all seen that. And to be able to give your client, tangible data to help them formulate a strategy where they don't lose sleep at night has tremendous value. And numbers give them that second layer of confidence that they're making the right decision and avoids the buyer's remorse.
Okay.
Okay, so when people say I'm a listing agent, I'm a buyer's agent, you just reverse engineer the process and you're the expert on the other side. It's truly that simple.
Okay.
But we probably spent what, half an hour trying to figure out how to export all the data, right?
What I did is, after I looked at that Saddlebrook property that's been on market like forever, what the actual price point should be, and I discounted it based on the days from the data that I got. So X amount of percentage off the list price, because that's how long it's been on market. So I feel like if I get an offer around that area, maybe a little bit more, that's sufficient based on the data that I got. So if I was representing a buyer, of course, but I'm not representing a buyer, I'm representing a seller. But if I did get an offer lower based on the data that I got, then that would be acceptable based on the days on market.
Right. So going back to your seller and saying, look at homes that have been on the market for, 45 to 90 days in what community was that?
That was Saddlebrook in Tampa.
In Tampa, right? Homes have been on the market in this price range for 45 to 90 days are on average selling for, 91% of the original list price and 94% of the then ask price. So I just wanted to set the right expectation because we're in that 45-day window that, we should probably expect to see offers in this price range. And if we accepted one here, that would be the most likely outcome. And then I would say in the next sentence would be, Anna, if we happen to cross the 120 days on the market, here's how properties are behaving. So you might see an extra 8% reduction in the net price if we go all the way up to 120 plus days on the market. And do you think the seller is not going to say, I want to get it sold in the next, if I'm on the market 51 days and it goes out to 90, that they might want to say, I got to sell this in the next 39 days, or I'm going to get, the statistics show me I'm going to get a haircut. I think our consumers are going to pay attention to that. And if you give them the data, very few people are doing that. And that's a value add for you. It sets the right expectation when offers come in, and usually, you're probably 90% of the time going to be in that standard deviation, that range that you're setting the expectation for. Because if the seller lowers the price and they're expecting to get a full price offer, that normally doesn't happen, right? Because you're now chasing the market. You're racking up days on market, which are not helping us to get a more positive outcome on the process.
Okay.
I love communicating with all of you. I don't know if you can tell that, even if you're your first time on here. But I love trying to have conversations to help you have that next level conversation with your team members or your clients so that they make the right choices, so that they don't learn the hard way. You know, they don't learn the teenager way. You know, the teenager way is you make a mistake, you don't listen to what you should do, right? You know, you drive too fast, you know, you don't listen, you don't learn till you crash the car. I don't want to see people crash cars or lose transactions because they're not following the best practices. They're not following what's most likely to happen. Right? You know, you can avoid the train wreck if you set the expectations. So reverse engineer process for buyers. On the email, Mark Feingold, were you listening, Mark?
I am.
So tell these people in Celebration that is not a lie.
Not a lie, although we have not closed yet. We should have closed, but there are issues unrelated. But the math that Rob presented, that I presented, worked.
What was my confidence level, Mark, when we spoke about that on a Saturday or Sunday?
You were absolutely 110% certain that this would work, and you were right.
And you know, you literally made my week when I saw that worked, because I had so much confidence and I just wanted you to do the right thing. And you know, if you do get into these circumstances, if I am available, you know, through your manager or text me, I'm always here to help out. Okay. And you know, by helping you, we help the clients, and this is, it's just a magical cycle. Okay. And I love what I do. I love to try to solve problems, and you know, every one of these masterminds is a result of, you know, me trying to add value, and it has its roots in something that I did during the week to try to help somebody in the company. So you know, this here is an extra tool in your toolbox. You know, they say, you know, most real estate professionals know what's going on. The better ones understand what's happening, and the best can teach it. Okay. And if you think about that, you know, I'll even say most productive, most competent, most agents that are doing business know what's going on. The better ones truly understand what's going on, and the best can teach it. When I say teach it, you need to teach it to your consumers. You need to teach it to yourself so that it is so certain. You have that high level of confidence that I had with Mark. And, you know, I am wrong, you know, at times, but I'm usually confident I did my homework. Okay. And most of the time, you know, things happen for reasons. There's clues that say how things are going to land, right? It's like, you know, I guess if you were you know, if you're old, you know, Jimmy the Greek used to predict, you know, sporting events, you know, I'm going to take the over under because of this. And they get very good at it. And, you know, I suggest that we all get very good at it. You know, we get confident, and we get to be able to teach it, which is that highest level of understanding, right? If you can teach it to your client, and if you know all the right information, but you can't communicate it correctly, you know, how impactful is that going to be to your clients? You know, I see you, Lillian, on camera. Thanks for being brave. If you understand it and you know exactly what you're doing, and you can't communicate it effectively to your clients, will they make the right decisions, in your opinion?
Okay. You have to articulate it correctly.
You have to articulate, and the first person that has to believe it 110% is us. Because if we don't believe it 110%, who is? Right?
Rob, so much of what we do is confidence, having the confidence. And I know that on several occasions early on in my career, I mean, I was fortunate to have clients who were big time financial corporate people. And in the beginning, I really felt inferior, you know, and I was a little concerned that they might sense that, until I started really doing the type of work that we're talking about today and developing my knowledge base. And then suddenly, they didn't bother me anymore. I liked the challenge. I had one client just briefly who was a senior vice president of Merck, and he tried to, let me know that he knew everything to know about real estate until I started giving him some statistics that he just was not aware of, and ended up selling him a very nice house. And one day he calls me and he says, "Hey, I'm sitting in the boardroom here at Merck, and I've got 5 of my friends here, and we have some questions for you." And I found myself, having a round table with these people about real estate. And that's what we're working towards. We want that confidence level that it doesn't matter who you meet, because you could meet them in the street, that you know what you're talking about and you can convince people that you know what you're talking about.
Right, and you don't pretend to know what you're talking about, you truly do, right? So you can't, that's why it's really difficult if you don't love this business, I think, Robert, Ron, everybody that's contributed here is, if you don't love the business, it's hard to be passionate and to really go deep and like live and breathe it. And, as you can see from everyone that's spoken here, you're passionate about what you do. You love to help people. You want to give them the best advice. And a lot of times that the frustration where clients make the wrong decisions is because we've gotten to that last mile of the process and we haven't had the strategy to get them to make the right choice. Right. And sometimes maybe, incorporating a little bit more statistical data into the process and learning how to communicate that into the strategy that will help them be successful is tremendously valuable. Okay. And before next mastermind, I'm going to talk to some of our leadership team. Maybe we'll do one market. We'll try to, put together a market report that's designed to educate us, and then we can in turn use that information to go back to our clients. I'm not sure, we have so many markets. I'm not sure, how practical this is, but I'm going to do this in one, and this will be just a small piece of next week's mastermind. But we're at 12 o'clock. The hour, at least for me, the hour flies by quickly. But any last questions before we wrap it up? Let's give it up for celebration, and I love the name too. Let's celebrate celebration, and I'll see everybody next week. Have a productive, great weekend.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Rob.
Thanks
Thank
for the warm
you.
welcome.
You
All right,
too.
bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.